Rahim. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to realize that technology isn't all that. Okay. And He's in control, which is true. So apologies, and I hope we don't have any more hiccups on the way going through this. I hope the 2 hours that we have, which I think already, half an hour is gone, we have an hour and a half left, is going to be sufficient. The rules that we have prepared in this slideshow, this was, again, it was quickly prepared, so I hope it doesn't have any errors in it. I tried my best to make it as best I could, inshallah. It's based on, as you can read there, based on the views of Ayatollah Khamenei and Ayatollah Sistani. And if anyone follows anyone else, they are similar in many ways, but there are some differences. Okay, we do have some differences. And please don't go to sleep now that the lights are out. So inshallah, let's go ahead with this. What we're going to be discussing are the following. We have a small intro. What does khums essentially apply to? When do we pay the khums? What are some of the khums deductibles? And how do we pay the khums? First, and I prepared this in Apple's keynote, all right, and then I had to convert it to PowerPoint, which ends up being like that. Microsoft and Apple don't really get along too well, so it's not my fault too much. So the intro is basically giving us a little bit of importance about khums. For those people who like to be scared, and they like to be scared, or they want the daylight scared out of them before they want to do something, this is something to listen to. The verse in the Holy Quran says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَإِنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ إِن كُنتُمْ آمَنْتُم بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا يَوْمَ الْفُرْقَانِ يَوْمَ الْتَقَى الْجَمْعَانِ وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Let them be, it's okay. The verse is about khums. There's a difference of opinion whether this verse discusses all forms of khums or it only discusses the khums that is due on what they refer to in English as war booty, okay, or ghanima, they call. Some of the ulama believe that it applies to all, and some say that it doesn't apply to all. I have pasted a translation here that translates it in a way where it applies to all. It says, and now know that whatever thing you gain, a fifth of it is for Allah and for the Messenger and for the near of kin and the orphans and the needy and so on and so forth. The reason why I put this verse up there is to bring this to the spotlight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't word this in the following way. There's two ways you could word this. There's one way to say, you guys you earn something, it's all yours, and you're supposed to pay some of that to charity, for example. Okay? It's yours, but pay it for charity. Use it and spend it on the poor, pay for meals for them, for clothing, for their education, and so on and so forth. But this verse doesn't put it in that way. This verse says, whatever you gain, 1/5 of it is God's from the beginning. Alright? From the beginning, when you earn something, 1/5 of it, 20% of it, already belongs to God and the Prophet. Okay? Meaning, if we don't pay it, we're actually, like whatever we earn, right, whatever we make, that is going to be split. 20% of it is the Imam of our times and the Sadat, and 80% of it is ours. If you have a partnership, okay, you jointly own something with someone, then you need the permission of the other party to make use of that. And if you don't have that, it's called ghasb. Alright? It's called ghasb. Usurpation. You're usurping, you're taking what does not belong to you. It doesn't belong to us. We would be taking that. And the The scary thing is we would be taking from what belongs to the Imam of our time. Okay, we're not taking some. There's a time I come and, God forbid, snatch something from you and want to use it. And there's a time you want to go and steal, al-ayadu billah, from the Imam of our time. God says that 1/5 of that does currently belong to the Imam. Not that, please, I beg you, pay. No, 1/5 of what I have given you, God says, belongs to them. Okay, so this is something I want to come back to because there's a ruling that is based on this. We're going to get to that, inshallah. What do we pay? Oh, here we go. It's messed up. It's not the way I put it together. What do we pay khums on? There's a list of 7 items that you have. One is war booty, or ghanima as they call it. In a war, once the Muslims were victorious, then they get to take whatever belonged to the warriors of the enemies fighting. And 1/5 of that first had to be separated and goes to the Prophet or the Imam to be spent on what khums is spent on. The rest of it is going to belong to the warriors who fought on the battlefield. Mines, for example, if anybody discovers a gold mine, I don't know what the laws in this country are, if that mine would belong to you or wouldn't belong to you. But according to our law, it is referred to as al-anfal. There's a surah of the Holy Quran that's referred to as al-anfal. Anfal are many things that in their entirety belong to the Imam of our time. Okay, all the lands that are not cultivated, or we can refer to them as deserts, they're bare. Okay, no one's worked on them. All of them belong to the Imam of our time. All the natural jungles belong to the Imam of our time. All of the oceans and the seas and everything, all of those are referred to as anfal. They belong to the Imam of our time. Of course, he has allowed us, the Shia especially, to make use of them. And if we go and, for example, if we take some land and we start cultivating it, that land will be belonging to us. One of those things is, or are mines, okay? The different mines that could be, but what they mean, ma'adan in Arabic, it includes even an oil field, okay? So anything, the literal meaning of the word mine, a large sum of something found in one place, usually underground, that is going to be something that if anybody finds one and they want to take whatever they want from that, whatever they take out, 1/5 of it is going to be paid as khums. Now, I don't think that really applies to too many of us. I don't think anybody here owns an oil field. If they do, mu'min should have been a lot larger than this. Treasures. That is also something, I don't think any one of you guys goes on treasure hunts to give the ruling on finding those types of things. But if you happen to find one, a hidden treasure chest in your garden, your basement, somewhere, then 1/5 of that is going to be belonging to the Imam of our time, and so on and so forth. The rules of khums apply to it. Valuables earned through diving is called al-ghaws. Okay. For pearls, for example, in the day and still today in Bahrain, apparently, as I was reading, they still go and dive and take out those pearls. Anything, the pearls are just one example. Anything valuable that is brought out from beneath the surface of oceans, seas, large lakes, large rivers like the Nile River or the Mississippi here, anything that's valuable other than the creatures there, meaning the fish and crabs and lobsters and what have you, valuables like pearls or anything else that's similar to that is something that khums will apply to. If anybody's interested in that, there's a discussion on if you use, instead of diving and bringing it, you send devices in and you bring it up. Is khums still going to apply to it or not? Ayat al-Sistani, for example, says as an obligatory precaution it will apply. Land bought from a Muslim by a kafir. In other words, a kafir buys land from a Muslim. They say khums applies to it. There's difference of opinion. I just put it out there. It doesn't really apply to you guys or apply to us, because even if the kafir buys it, he's not going to be paying khums. We don't have to worry about that. The 6th and 7th one are the ones that really apply to us, and we would have to worry about them. Al-halal al-mukhtalit bil-haram, or halal mixed with haram. And we're going to get to the details of that. That's the sixth item. And general belongings, whatever you earn or maybe receive as gifts, inheritance, and so on and so forth, that we will discuss the details. The first one, briefly, we would touch on is halal mixed with haram. If you have some haram mixed into, inshallah, we all have halal earnings. Sometimes we have haram mixed into it, meaning we had maybe an invalid contract, something that was not rightfully ours, got mixed into what we own. Why? Plenty of different reasons why that could happen. Okay, one example I'll just mention is the selling of lottery tickets. Okay, that's not something that is allowed, and if anybody earns through that, then whatever they have taken to sell that lottery ticket or any other form of gambling, that money which they have taken, they don't deserve it. It's not theirs. It belongs to the person who gave it to them. All right. So if that mixes into your property, then you got halal and haram mixed into your property and your belongings, your possessions. What are the rulings with regards to this? I want to make it clear in which or in what circumstance khums is going to make, because the purpose of this is the following. If you have halal and haram mixed, in some cases, if you pay 1/5 of that or 20% of that as khums, then you're going to be able to use the rest of it. It's going to be halal for you to use the rest of it. But there are a few different scenarios when you have halal and haram mixed. All right. For example, you may know who it belongs to. I had an invalid contract with a friend, with a family member, with somebody. All right. And because of that, there is some haram, something that doesn't belong to me that's mixed into my property. I don't know maybe how much it is, but I do know who it belongs to. In that case, I can't do this. I have to go and speak to the person, try to clear things up, come to an agreement as to how much we're going to settle the deal and cut off the deal, how much I'm going to be paying him, and resolve the issue based on musalaha, they call it. Or sometimes I may not know who it belongs to, but I may have an idea how much it is. Okay? I may have an idea how much it is. For example, I know it's $50. Okay? I didn't know that, for instance, I didn't know if I find money on the ground here based on some of the fatwa, it's not going to belong to me. I can't just take it, because some people have heard that you can just take it and it's yours. Right? Other manhaj say you can't do that. Well, I didn't know that. I picked it up. Now I come to know that I can't make use of it. All right. Well, you don't know who it belongs to, but you know exactly how much it is. You can't do this and say, oh, I'll pay khums of it, $50. I'll pay $10 and take 40 for myself. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay. It doesn't work like that. And that's why we've written here, when you know some of what you currently have. The reason why we say currently have is because of this. Sometimes, after learning some of the rulings, we realize that some of what we have earned in the past, and it's all gone, we've already spent it, it's all gone, some of that probably was not halal. All right. Well, that's something else. You're going to deal with that as something called raddul madalim. You're going to give a little something in charity to try to make sure you have on behalf of the person who would actually belong to. All right. You're giving this charity so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would bless them. You don't have any other way to get this back to them. By giving it as charity, you're trying to pay the person back. But what you currently own, it still exists with you. You know some of that is actually not belonging to you, doesn't actually belong to you, with these two conditions. You have no clue how much it is. What I mean by no clue is, I don't know exactly, nor do I know approximately. If you know approximately, it's roughly between $500 and $1,000. Well, you have an idea. This ruling doesn't apply. Okay. I know roughly maybe 1/10 of what I own. 10% maybe, or what is it? 1%, whatever, 5%. Something, some figure approximately is how much doesn't belong to me. If you have a rough idea how much it is, again, this rule does not apply to you. Okay? So only if you have no clue whatsoever, I don't know if it's 20%, 5%, 2%, 30%, no clue at all. And you have no clue who it is. What do I mean by no clue? Why do I put that word in there? Because if you know it's one of 2 or 3 people, then again you can't do this. You have to go to all 3 of them, try to resolve the issue. Alright? But if you have no clue how much it is, you have no clue who it is that it belongs to, that's when you can pay 1/5 of it or 20% of it, and the rest of whatever you have is going to be allowed for you to use. It'll be halal. Before I continue, I want to make this point that, as always, whenever I do these presentations or these workshops, if you have a question, just raise your hand right there. Okay, don't wait for later. So if there's any questions, please just ask. Otherwise, I'm going to move forward. Now, what we usually know khums as is our general belongings or possessions. Okay. What does what does khums apply to out of what we have, what belongs to us? We may have obtained it through many different means. One of them is through working and earning, but it could be other means as well. There's a difference of opinion on this issue between Ayatollah Sistani and Ayatollah Khamenei. On this issue, people who follow Ayatollah Sistani wish they could usually try to switch on this issue, but it's well, I won't give you any leeway out of it. But whoever follows him, all right, he says that whatever belongs to you, whatever you earn, whatever you receive as gifts, whatever you get as the result of, let's say if you have a crash and they total your car, they give you a sum of money. Whatever you receive, it doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as it comes from an outside source and now it belongs to you, khums will apply to it, except for these 4 items that we have on the list here. Okay, so it means all gifts, life insurance, because life insurance is not inheritance. Some people have a misunderstanding regarding that. Life insurance is a contract between you and the life insurance company, and when the person passes away, the company has this commitment that they will pay a certain amount to the beneficiary, whoever it may be. That has nothing to do with inheritance. Inheritance is what the person owns at the time of death. This is something else. This is a contract for them to give somebody else after death a certain amount of money. Okay. Now, if somebody receives that sum of money, that is going to be something that khums will apply to. Yes?
One question is, money that we are earning, we pay tax. Is it counted as a khums too?
I'll explain what we have as deductibles, what we can kind of set aside and we don't have to worry about the khums of. But right now I'm just explaining in terms of what comes into your position, what will, which one of those khums will apply. And when we compare what we're reading here with Ayatollah Khamenei's fatwa, we'll clear up why I'm stressing on this. Yes? What do you mean?
For example, if you receive $100,000.
Yeah, cash. Yeah, definitely. Cash is definitely not an exception. The only exceptions are, number 1, mahr, dowry, what's earned through khul'. Okay, khul' is a form of divorce that the wife is fed up with the husband and she wants out of it, and the husband's like, I'm okay with it, so if you want this divorce, you got to pay for it. And she gives a little something, and a little something. All right. Hopefully, I hope that doesn't happen here, but please, because the cases that I'm dealing with, the guys are asking for a heck of a lot of money for that divorce. And don't think that the guy does have the right. Okay, people say, oh, it's my right, right? I can divorce. I'm the one that has the right to divorce, and therefore I can control this. No, it doesn't work like that. There are limitations. Anyway, also diya, if somebody, God forbid, cuts a finger of yours off or something, they owe you diya. That diya is not something that khums would be applying to, And the last one is inheritance. If anyone receives inheritance from a family member, which is Islamically considered inheritance. Let me clear this up as well. Islamic inheritance. Because if it's anything other than what in the Shia school of thought you're supposed to be receiving as inheritance, then that is not going to be qualifying as this form of inheritance that we're saying, and therefore Khums, according to Ayatollah Sistani, will apply. He only makes an exception based on a hadith that if it's an inheritance that out of the blue you just got a phone call and you came to know that some distant relative of yours has passed away and the only one which is going to be inheriting from them, none of the near relatives are alive, and therefore it comes to you. Alright, so you didn't expect it, out of the blue it came, it's some distant relative. He says that is not one of the exceptions, and therefore Khums will apply to that. So basically, Khums applies to everything except for these which you don't always get them. According to Ayatollah Khamenei, though, he says only your earnings, what you work for, that's what Khums applies to. Okay, if you work for something, you have a contract with somebody or some entity, some company, whatever, where you're working for them and they're paying you, right? The payment that's coming is in return for work that you do for them. He says that's what Khums will apply to. Therefore, these examples that we've mentioned, Khums does not apply to, and it's not limited to these examples. These are only examples. Gifts, no, because you didn't work for it. Insurance payments, whether it's life insurance, car insurance, whatever. If they give you money, that's not an earning, Khums doesn't apply to it. Work bonuses, people who have 401k accounts or other accounts where their employer matches what they put into that account. What the employer matches, that's not considered an earning, and therefore Khums doesn't apply to that according to Ayatollah Khamenei, whereas according to Ayatollah Sistani it does apply. Unemployment benefits or anything of that, anything that you don't actually work for, all right, and it's given to you based on some contract or some law or whatever else, Khums does not apply to it according to Ayatollah Khamenei. Yes.
We do not have any income from oil fiction here, but what's the purpose of getting some money from the gas, right, on properties and the land? So what about that money? Do we have to keep it separate, or can it be added to your savings and then pay for it?
According to Ayatollah Sistani, that money is no different than others. Khums applies to it. Okay? And therefore, the Khums date that we're going to be talking about right now, whenever that day is going to be, you're going to have to put that as part of your in a sense earnings, and pay Khums on it. According to Ayatollah Khamenei, though, it doesn't. That you separate that, you don't put that with the rest.
You can add that to your savings.
Yeah, yes. All those types of money, according to Ayatollah Khamenei, Khums doesn't apply to them. So you put them aside as savings, you don't pay Khums on them. When do we pay Khums? There's a Khums day everybody automatically has. All right, a lot of people don't know this. The day you start working is the day that automatically your Khums year begins. Okay, Khums is calculated annually, just like taxes are calculated annually as well. So it's an annual process. But when does it begin? The day you start working, not when you receive your first paycheck in these regular jobs that we have. Okay, there are some cases. And let me put that out there as well. I'm trying to give you an overview. I'm not giving you all the details of the rulings. All right, we'll have to sit here until Fajr time and it'll still not be over with. Okay, I'm just giving you an overview. So there's details. There are some cases that the timing would be different, but the type of work a lot of us do is that when we begin the work, then gradually we start to have like monthly paychecks coming in. Those types of works, then the day you start your work is your automatic Khums day. All right. Can we change it? Yes, we can change it. If we want to change it to some date that we like, for example, we like it to be the 1st of Ramadan or the 1st of the Hajjah or some other date during the year, we can go ahead and do that, but we have to, before the automatic khums day comes, we have to pick one of those days. So before a year is up, we've got to calculate the khums, let's say 6 months down the line, in some month, lunar, Gregorian, or some other calendar. Whatever date it is that you want, 6 months down the line, you can select that date, pay the khums up to that point, and then from there on, that will be your khums day. But otherwise, if you allow that 1 year to pass by and then you want to go to another date, it doesn't work because you didn't pay it at the end of that year. Do we have anything that is deductible? In other words, we set it aside. There's a lot of misunderstandings when we get into this discussion, and I hope we're able to clarify them. Is there anything that we can set aside and say, khums doesn't apply to this? The brother asked about taxes, for example. We're going to be paying taxes. Do we pay an additional khums on that as well? Okay, or how does this work? It depends what you mean. All right, so I've tried to make this clear. There's a time that we're talking about something that we've already spent an amount of money. Okay, I've already bought things. I've already used them. They're already gone completely. All right, I don't have the money left with me, and yes, just making sure it's the one I'm talking about. I don't have the money left. It's already spent, and what I bought with it is also gone. It was food, for example. I went to the restaurant and I bought something, I ate it, it's done, finished. Okay. Or it's clothing that's, I used it a couple of times, it was ruined, I had to throw it in the bin. Okay, done. It's gone. I don't have it any longer. If this is what we mean by something that we can deduct, yes, if we have something like that, if we've made expenses in that way, definitely we don't have to say, okay, the day that I received my paychecks, it was a certain amount of money, I calculate the khums on that. I don't have to do that. I can do that, but we don't have to do that. After making our expenses, when it's actually gone, this is the first step, it's completely gone, then we don't calculate it as part of khums. All right. The reason why I say this is because, I don't know, I'm not too familiar with the tax system here, but I remember hearing people putting things in their tax deductibles that they didn't actually do. Okay, they didn't actually make expenses, they just made claims. All right, doesn't work here. God knows what you're doing. If you've actually spent it and it's gone, then obviously you don't worry about it, unless what we have over here, unless it was wasted. Okay. And this is where the verse kind of comes into the play. The verse says, when you receive the paycheck, khums applies to the paycheck. Our understanding usually is that khums applies to it after the year is over with. It's not an accurate understanding. Khums actually applies right when you get the paycheck. The only thing is, you have an allowance to spend whatever you need, and then afterwards calculate it. So since that's the case, in other words, the imam who is the owner of that 20% is saying it's okay in the boundaries of the normal expenses that usually people make. Someone like yourself, someone with your type of earning, how much do they spend of their earnings? Okay, how much do they spend? If you spend that much by the end of the year, whatever your needs were, maybe you had to go to the doctor, you had to pay medication, whatever it is, that's okay. Afterwards, you can calculate it. But they haven't given us permission to waste it. If we waste anything, then 20% of whatever we've wasted, we have to bring into the picture again. All right? It's gone. I don't have the money anymore, and I don't have the food or whatever. I bought too much food. Okay? Too much food. Let me take this opportunity. Brothers a couple of times mentioned this to me, that it's really not acceptable that you have sometimes food all over the place here and gets wasted and so on and so forth. Now, I don't know to what extent that happens, but as a reminder, we have to be very, very, very careful with the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided for us. But if we spend money in a wasteful way with regards to khums, we'll also have trouble. We're going to have to bring that in again, see how much it was, pay 20% of that as khums.
Yeah, who defines waste?
Common perception. Whatever we say, it's common perception. Like if people, the general public, sees certain cases, a lot of times they're borderline. Like some people say, oh, it's too much or whatever. But clear instances that whoever sees it, like, whoa, this is way too much. This is wasting. It's too much. Okay. Or the other one is I've written here, spent in an irresponsible way. Okay, in comparison to your earnings. What do we mean by that? If somebody who earns, I don't know, $3,000 a month, okay, spends $200 on bubble gum every month, okay, that is too much. It's not wasting in the sense that you're throwing it away, all right, but someone with that earning, maybe bubble gum isn't the best example. If somebody like that spends every month $200 on cologne. All right, someone who earns $3,000 a month, $300 every month on cologne. I don't know what he does with it, but $300 on cologne. That's too much for you. Maybe if someone's making 10, 15 grand a month, maybe if they spend that much on cologne, that's acceptable for them. But someone with 3,000, that's a little too much. All right.
Someone is online to give these two questions.
Can you read them?
Yeah, I can read it, but it's better just to online.
Okay, can you check on Social Security? Okay. How about retirement contribution and... Oh, it was... Okay. Social Security, again, according to Ayatollah Sistani, Khums does apply to it. All right, if anything comes from that. Retirement contribution, when you get benefits later, according to Ayatollah Sistani, regardless of where it comes from, Khums will apply to it. Okay. But with regards to the retirement pensions, as they call them here, I'm not too sure if there's any technicality in that term that I'm not very familiar with. But in some countries, they give you retirement funds not as a collection of money or a collection of your earnings over the course of the years that you worked for them. They don't put that aside and then give it to you the way they do it like in the 401k account here. All right, the 401k is pretty much your own earnings. They put it aside unless they match and they add some to it. But it's your own, part of it at least, is your own earnings that they're setting aside in that account. In some countries it doesn't work like that. You get your earnings, you pay your taxes, when you get retired, they will provide you with funds. It's not money that you worked for, right? It's not part of the contract in that sense. You didn't work for that type of retirement fund that's coming to you. According to Ayatollah Khamenei, would be exempt from Khums. Khums doesn't apply to that. According to Ayatollah Sistani, even that is something that Khums would apply to. Alright, so if it's gone, then it's deductible except for what we just mentioned. If you still have something, it's with you, you want to figure out if it's something that is deductible and you can set it aside or not. If you have cash, alright, in your savings account, outside of your account, somewhere in your pillow, wherever you keep it, if you have cash, right, no matter, let me see if I've written it in the next page, yeah, okay. Cash could be one thing, or you can have non-cash positions, like clothes, like land, jewelry, different, whatever is not cash. Those are just examples. These can be divided if it's not, because cash, it doesn't really matter, but if it's non-cash, if what you have, you've bought something, all right, you've bought a house, you bought clothes, you bought a car, you bought jewelry, you bought cologne, all right, that's what you have with you right now. It's either for personal use or it's business, okay. This is a list of what we have. What are the rulings? If it's cash, it doesn't matter if it's savings, personal savings, it belongs to the business that you run, whatever it is. If you have cash, then Khums will apply to it regardless. even if it's something that you do business with, like traditionally, I don't know how much or exactly how they do it here. Maybe they do it only with credit, but if you have it sitting around so you can buy more goods and sell them and so on and so forth, it doesn't matter what you use that cash for. Cash is something that's always going to be subject to khums, and you can't set it aside as deductibles. Okay. And what I mean by that is cash that's actually yours. Okay, we're not talking about loans. We're going to talk about that later. Well, we're talking about non-cash positions, what you own that is not cash, if it's personal, for personal use. You have two different types. Objects, I've written this as objects that you use, like clothes, home, your car, jewelry, whatever other example. Something that when you buy it, you keep it and you keep on using it, all right? For these types of goods that you have in your house, if it's something that you have bought and you're actually using it, you actually need it. I just remembered I haven't put that in the writing here in the slide. If it's something that you actually need, and what I mean by need is not that if you didn't have it, you're going to be on the street and you're going to be dying. You won't be able to survive. That's not what I mean by need. What usually people would be spending their money on. For example, here it may be common to have a couple or a few pairs of shoes. Okay. Whereas in some other parts of the world, having one pair of shoes is perfectly fine. Usually a lot of people have just that one pair, or maybe a maximum of two. But here you may have 5, 6 different pairs. Some people have 20, 30 pairs. So whatever is common for people to buy, right? They need that in that sense of the word, not, again, a dire need that they're going to be dying if they don't get it. With these two conditions, one is the quality and the quantity of it fit your living standards. Again, that example of someone who is earning $3,000 and they want to spend too much money on cologne. All right, that's not going to count. That's not something that is going to be exempt from khums. But if it's something that in terms of its quantity, it's not too much quantity-wise or quality-wise. You may have one car, but someone with your earnings, okay, going and buying a Mercedes or a BMW is too much. You know, if it's too much, then that's something that is not going to be deducted from your earnings. Sorry, salawat, please. Okay.
Can you go back to the last slide?
This one?
What about this B1?
B is the explanation of the first one. They're both pretty much the same thing. I just wanted to clarify.
If I have two laptops?
Two laptops, it depends on how much, like what the standard is. Like for some people, maybe it's common to have 5 laptops. Okay, so it's okay if they have 5 laptops. For some people, if they have even one, it's too much. Like what are you doing with a laptop? Okay, you can barely afford a desktop, for example. It really has to do with their earnings, what's common for such a person to have, what's fine. People hear that, like, oh, you have 2 laptops, and be like, oh, what the heck are you doing with 2 laptops? Or they hear that, like, oh, really, I have 3. Okay. It really has to do with, and it's not something that's cut and dry, okay? It's not something that is clear cut. There's a lot of gray area that is not too clear. Consumable goods, meaning, I don't know, if you have sugar in your house, if you drink coffee, if you have coffee grounds or coffee filters or tea or rice or potatoes, fruits, whatever. Trash bags, as I've put in here. It's the only thing that came to my mind at that time when I was writing this up. Whatever remains of it in your house, you have to calculate the khums of it. Okay? So the day that your khums, you have to pay your khums, you have to check your fridge and see what you have in the fridge. You have to check your entire house, see whatever extra you have that hasn't been used. You bought it because you wanted to use it, but you didn't actually use it. All right? So it's sitting there and it's not been used. These are consumable goods. The usage of it is when they're actually gone. It's not like the first category that we mentioned, that you keep it and you keep on using it. All right? So whatever remains, you're going to have to calculate the khums of it. Of course, you don't take your bottle of cologne and you start spraying everybody in the office of the marja. Okay? You have to figure out how much that is worth. Thank you so much. Santo. Is there a question on this side? I thought I had heard something. Okay.
Okay, Sheikh, I have a question on this consumable goods.
Yes.
Okay, in order to save, let's say we buy a whole week.
Yeah.
But we don't use it the whole week.
Mm-hmm. Sitting in your freezer. Yeah. Khums applies to it at the end of the year. Whatever remains, whatever you haven't eaten of that, the meat that you have in your freezer or the frozen vegetables or whatever it is. But let me explain this. The reason why I gave the cologne, it wasn't just a funny example. There's a reason for it. If you have a cologne that you have already opened it up, okay, and you're using it, all right, and it's half gone, you can't really evaluate. If you take that on the street, how much are they going to buy it from you? Anybody going to pay you anything? 50 cents maybe? Okay. How much is it worth? No, seriously, anybody like have an idea how much that would be worth on the street? I don't think anybody's going to buy it from you, right? Even if you put up a yard sale, you can't sell your cologne, all right, that you've already opened up. If you have it in the box, unused, maybe you'd be able to make $5 off of it. But otherwise, you can't sell it for anything if it's been opened up and used. Okay. The reason why we mentioned that example is this, that at the end, you don't say, oh, this is, I don't know, it's Hugo Boss, it's worth 80 bucks, I paid 80 bucks for it, all right? And so I'm going to be paying, what's that, 20% of that is going to be less than $20, all right, whatever it is. 16, thank you. Good math minds here. $16. I'm not going to be paying $16 for that. All right, I have to look at the value of it at the end of the year when I'm going to be paying my khums. If this bottle now is worth nothing on the market, then I just don't look at that. I look at the other things. If you opened up a can of tomato paste or tomato sauce or whatever, okay, you opened it up, there's some remaining in it, but you can't take it to the office of marja and make a stew for them, okay, or a curry or something with it. And there's really no value to it. You can't sell that thing, okay. So you don't calculate those things which have no value after being opened up and something remains of them. Whatever you have left that does actually, for example, you went to Walmart, you got a few different, a few packs of spaghetti noodles, okay, and you opened up one pack, but you got 3 of them left, and those 3 could have been returned to Walmart, and you could make the, get the money back for it. So you have to see how much you paid for them, and you're going to have to pay the khums on the price that they have, okay. So basically, the consumable goods, whatever remains, you do pay khums, but you only pay it on things that are considered of value. If something isn't worth anything, then you don't worry about it. And whatever is worth something, you have to look at what it's worth at that time, not what it's worth at the time when you bought it. Okay? If it's lost value, then you pay the value, the khums of the depreciated value, not the original price that it had on it. Yes? Everybody's interested in that one. Why is that? It's a good question. Different things, different items that we buy, the way they're used is different. For example, women like to have a lot of jewelry. They may wear it once a year, once every 2 years, once every 3 years, okay, or some clothing, all right? That's just how that piece of clothing is used, okay? You wear it once and then you can't wear it to the next wedding or the next one or the next one. Maybe sometime down the line you get to wear it in some other regular casual place. So that's how people use it, okay? And having it isn't considered now having something that is useless. No, they keep them in the closet for I don't know how many years, okay? And that's completely understandable and acceptable by the common norms. Again, we're going to go with common perception, common norms, what people usually live their lives. If you buy something that it's needed, otherwise you're not going to go to that party, okay? So when you buy that, keep it. You don't have to worry about the khums of it at the end of it. Sports goods, again, if it's something that with your earnings, it's something you would buy, because some things people wouldn't buy. Like for me, if I go and buy a whole, a ski gear, or the whole thing, the whole set, it's too much for me. All right, people are like, what the heck are you doing, buying this stuff? Okay, maybe if I want to go somewhere once, I can rent it. All right, make use of it, just leave it and come back. But if I buy it, it's too much. But if someone can afford it, yeah, it's very normal for someone with certain earning to have the whole set for themselves. They may go once a year, every 2 years. That's acceptable, all right? Whatever the common perception, first of all, again, something that you would be seen as someone that, yeah, it's normal to buy something like this. And then you wouldn't have to worry about, did I use it before the homestay? You may buy it 2 weeks before the homestay came. All right? You don't worry about that. You bought it because it's a need. I'm going to be going on a skiing trip, I don't know, a month down the line, 2 months down the line. It's going to pass my homestay. Doesn't matter. It's something that's considered a need. All right? And it doesn't matter. Need is the word we're looking for, not usage. All right? For example, that brings me to another example. If you want to buy a plane ticket, okay, the date of the flight is after your homestay, right? But when do you usually buy it? You want to get a cheap ticket, it's common to buy it earlier on, right? So I'm paying for a ticket that I'm going to be using after the homestay. But because it's common to make that expense in that, if you buy it a year in advance, maybe that's too early, okay? But something that's acceptable, people usually do that. All right, that's acceptable. That's okay. You don't have to worry about paying the khums on that just because the ticket is actually for after the homestay.
So now, Chef, I have bought a book, a very expensive book. I didn't finish the book. Just read 10% of it. So
Many people do that, right? It's common to buy a book, read 10 pages, leave it in the library, and maybe 2 years down the line read it. That's an acceptable.
have to pay khums on it.
No. The usage of everything, as I said, commonly people, when they feel like buying a book, okay, it's not like when they buy it and they bring it home and they read 5 pages of it, they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have to take it back and get the money back. I just leave it there, okay? Maybe sometime down the line they're going to read it. That's acceptable. You don't have to worry about the khums on that. Yes?
What if you earmark something for an expense that's after the date? You know it's coming. If my date is January 1st, for example, and I know that in February 15th I'm going to take a trip.
Yeah.
I haven't booked my ticket, but I know it's going to cost me $1,000 to book the ticket.
Yeah.
Can I earmark the money for
No.
that and pay, or do I have to pay khums on it and then?
Yeah, this goes back to the cash one, see? If it's cash, you still have the cash at the time the homestay, then you have to pay khums on it. Even if you know 2 weeks down the line you're going to have to buy that. Yes, there's one exception. If it's only a few days, right, after the homestay, and you need it, if you pay the khums, you're not going to be able to make that expense. That is an exception. But that's only a couple days, like not even a week, right? Yes?
Is it the norm of the person, or is it a norm of the society, the product that you're utilizing?
Norm of society, that's why I said common perception, common people. What do people usually understand this as, right? And then you have got to understand what people commonly understand this. In other words, I have to look at my situation and see what I understand of common perception. I live amongst people. My understanding, unless I trick myself, is probably going to be based on how I've seen everybody else deal with this. Okay. So this is a complicated concept that people get confused a lot of times. All right, because you have the element of the mukallaf themselves figuring it out. Everybody has to figure out for themselves. But you also have an element of, the society, people, others, how they understand it. It's the mukallaf trying to understand, the person trying to understand what others, what everybody, not just deciding, I want to see it in this way or the other way. No, you have to see how people view it. Okay, so the consumable goods, I think we talked about this. One other thing that comes up is that sometimes if, for example, jewelry is bought, gold is bought, okay, it's a bracelet or a ring or earrings or necklace or whatever, okay, and it's used for a number of years. Now the person wants to sell it and buy another piece, okay. When they sell it, do they have to calculate any khums on that? Do they not calculate khums on that? How does that work? Especially if there's added value. For example, the price of gold 10 years ago and the price of gold now is a pretty large gap right now. It went up. Okay, the price of gold went up. So now I'm selling it for a lot more expensive than what I paid for it back then, right? So what do I do with that? Do I calculate the khums? Do I not calculate the khums? There's a difference of opinion. Ayatollah Khamenei says if it's something that you actually made use of, was something you needed, if you sell it, you don't have to worry about the khums of it at all. Okay. You just put it aside again, you put it in your savings, right? You don't worry about it. But according to Ayatollah Sistani, there's complications there, especially if you don't make use of that money. You just set it aside. You don't buy another piece of jewelry. If you sell it and then buy another piece of jewelry right then, and you are going to be using it, you do need it in the sense that we mentioned before, then you don't have to worry about it. Okay, but if you let it stay, you sell it, you keep the cash until the khums date comes, then according to Ayatollah Sistani, there are some calculations that you will have to do on the khums. Apparently, all of that money you're going to have to put into your earnings and calculate the khums on. Okay. Yes.
For example, the expense has already incurred, and you have been billed for that, but the due date hasn't occurred. For example, if I'm paying on 20th of the month, and I know my rent is due or some of the medical expenses are due, so should you pay it first and then take out the funds, or you can take out the funds without including it?
Okay, the question is about, I guess, advance payment of an expense is coming, right? And to clarify, you're actually making the payment. You're not setting the money aside, like the rent example that you mentioned, right? Rent is coming up in 20 days, and now is my khums day. Okay, I'm not setting aside, I'm going and making the payment before I pay. That has to do with common perception and common norms, okay? The example of the plane ticket was for that. Plane tickets, usually people don't buy it the day before. Okay, they buy it in advance. How much in advance? Roughly maybe about a month, right? So with the payment of rent, is it common for people to do that, or we're running away from khums? If it's common for people to do that, it's acceptable. Okay, it's a common need for me to do it right now. Okay, but if it's not a need that commonly people do, no, you're going to have to pay the khums. Even if you make the payment, you'll still have to pay the khums. Yeah. Yeah, I know. But do people usually do people usually pay it in advance, 10 days in advance? Or do people wait for the day and then they pay it maybe a day in advance? If it's usual and common for people to pay it on the day or a day in advance, you want to pay it 10 days in advance? No, that's not going to be exempt, and you're going to have to pay the khums on that, even if you go ahead and make the payment. So it's gone, but you still have to pay the khums on that. Yes. I'm going to be talking about business right now. We just got to business. Yes?
Money set aside for children's wedding and education.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not touching it.
The question is about, for those who didn't hear, is about money set aside in an account, for example, a savings account or wherever, for the children's education, wedding, for the future, okay, but it's for the children. yes, khums will apply to it. Okay. This goes back to the one on cash. Cash is khumsable regardless of what it is going to be for. But you don't have to pay the khums from that. Okay. It's just that you have to bring that into your calculations when you're paying the khums. You're going to have to calculate the khums of that as well.
When you have to pay the khums at the time of taking the amount out, or like every year?
Are you talking about a particular deal or a particular account, or are you talking about just an account that you've set up yourself? Because,
Like, for example, education,
okay,
because they have a certain limitations to you can take it out at a certain age.
yeah, that's why I was asking the question, because some of those accounts have certain restrictions on them. See, I still haven't found someone. The 401k is similar. Okay, 401k is a similar account where you have restrictions until 59 and a half. You can't take it out, or if you do, there's going to be penalties and so on and so forth, right? I still haven't found someone that can give me a clear explanation of how that works. Okay, but what I can tell you is this. All right, you can try to apply it yourself, figure it out yourself. If you, by common norms, common perception, common understanding, you are considered someone who has access to the account, access to that money, it's there for you, right? Whatever amount of it is there for you, okay? Because let me explain why I say this. Again, I don't have a clear understanding. I've asked a few people, even accountants. They've given me some understanding, but it wasn't very clear. I've asked a few people. Nobody's been able to give me something clear where I can rely on, especially something written that is official where I can say, okay, this is what the 401k is, these are what the rulings are, and this is what you need to do. I have heard that it is accessible. You can take it out. There is a penalty, but some people choose to take it out because they have a business opportunity and they make loads of money. They actually do that. Okay, some people have done that, right? Others say, no, you don't have access to it, this, that, the other. Now, I'm not sure if those people are just not informed or those other people are not telling me something about it. I don't know. If it's something that is actually, even if it's 50% of what's in the account that you can currently, right now, today, take out, okay, it's accessible to you. And it's not something that's considered an extremely stupid decision, like you're wasting all that money. If it's considered something that you will be like at serious loss, right, then you don't worry about that. But if it's not serious loss, it's not something that's like that, it is considered something that is acceptable. Like it's, in a sense, common people, if they need to, they just take it out, no problem, right? If it's like that, then you're going to have to take it into account, right, for sure. You're going to have to take it into account for sure. If it's not accessible, all right, if it's something that people don't consider accessible, so no, it's in that account, nobody touches it, rarely somebody figures out some business plan, they take out that money and they make use of it and make loads more money, okay? But it's not common to do that. It's very rare to find somebody like that. If that's the case, I still have doubts, because the reason is, and I haven't found any clear fatwa on this, email your marja, whatever your response you get, apply that yourself. The reason is because I can have access to it. I'm just telling them to set it aside in that account. Okay, I'm willingly telling them to set it aside in the account, and once it goes into the account, then I'm not going to have access to it, right? So it's because of my will and my wanting that this is happening. It's not like I don't have any control over this. No, I have control over it. I have caused them to do this. So if even we're not considered someone that has complete access to it now, but because of that issue, I would feel like I can't tell people not to take precaution on that. Send an email to your marja's office and see if they have a clear answer for you.
One question, in the same context, when you have a certain amount
Mm.
in a retirement account,
Yeah.
it's also subject to tax.
Yeah.
You take it out. You can take all of it out. It's certain
Well, they're going to take out the tax.
you take out the tax, or you pay the full, irrespective of the tax, and then you pay the tax.
No, because you don't actually have access to the whole thing. right? I mean, it says in your account that you have, I don't know, $200,000, okay? But the $200,000 aren't something that you can actually get out of it. They're going to deduct the tax from it, and that's what you're going to get. Whatever is going to end up in your hands is what you're going to be paying khums on, okay?
But basically, when you try to figure out, you have to pay the tax. On top of that, you have to
Penalty.
pay penalty,
Yeah.
10% at least.
Yeah, that's what people
Around
have told.
30-40% minimum, you'll end up losing.
I've heard that rule, but I still haven't gauged this idea of what do people consider this here. Is this common for people to take it out, or is very rare? Nobody does.
Very rare. The only time you take it out if you have hardship, if you're buying the house, then you can take it out without any penalty. Otherwise, people don't try to take it out because
Okay.
the money that's aside for your retirement.
But if there is some, but that's because of the retirement, not because it's not access. I mean, people want to keep it there because they want to have it when they're 59 and a half. Not that they don't want to take it out because they're really worried about the 10% of the taxes. These are two different things. Okay? If somebody chooses, like, no, I want to keep that saving there because I want to have it in that future time, that's a different story. If that's the case, then you will have to pay khums on it every year. Whatever is accumulated in the account, you're going to have to pay khums on it. If the reason why people don't touch it is not because of that, forget about that now, because it's so expensive to take it out, it's not worth it. And nobody would do that because of that reason. If this second one is the reason, that's when I still have doubts. Okay, you have to like ask your marjas.
Very rare practice to take that money out.
But the rare practice, but is it because they consider it inaccessible? I'm going to get that. Yeah. Business is going to cover all of that. All right. Any non-business questions we can address? If there's any business ones, we're going to leave for, yes.
Let's say you buy some gift for your wife, right?
Uh-huh.
You pay from credit card.
Yeah.
So,
Credit card is a loan.
yeah, so that
We haven't talked about loan yet. We're going to talk about that. Okay. Anything else? Yes.
If you have money in your savings that you paid khums on already,
I'm going to address that as well. If we have money in our savings that we've already paid khums on it once, does khums apply to it again? And some of the other rulings that apply to that, I'm going to get to that. All right, business. There's a few things that for business we buy. All right, the first one is, forgive me, as I said, I tried to put it together as quick as I could, and this is very simple wording to make it understandable. There's certain things that we buy, like equipment, okay, or a home for rent. That we buy a home and we rent it. We don't want to. We're not buying that property in order for the price to appreciate and then sell it. No, I want to keep that and I want to make money off of the rent. Maybe in the future I want to give it to my son. Maybe, okay, but I don't want to sell it. I want to keep it. I want to make money by renting it out, all right, or equipment. I don't know. If you have a van, some tools, okay, that people use, right? Different equipment that are required for the work that people are going to be doing. That you buy it, you're using it for earning. It's business related, but you're not buying it to keep it and then sell it. All right. For these items, as we've written, khums applies to its value at the end of the first khums year. Okay. For example, if you've bought a car, maybe it's a cab driver. Somebody's driving a cab, right? The car is not for personal use; it's for business. At the end of that first khums year, after buying that car, whatever the value of it is at the end of the khums year, the person is going to have to pay khums on that. For example, if they bought it for $15,000, I don't know what the price would be, 15, 20, whatever. As soon as you take it out of the dealership or wherever you got the car, it's going to lose value. All right. So at the end of the year, when your khums day is, you have to see how much that's worth. You pay khums on that, and that's the only time you're going to be paying khums on it. Okay. You don't have to be worrying about it at all. If you've bought a house, right, you bought it for, I don't know, $500,000, and you're renting it out. At the end of the year, the price went up. Instead of 500,000, it's now, I don't know, 520. Okay. 700, whatever, it went up, okay, then you're going to have to pay that amount, the khums on that amount. If you, of course, if anybody's that rich that they paid the $500,000 out of their pocket, okay, their own money. All right. If it's a loan, different story, we're going to discuss that later. We're talking about somebody actually buying a house for some value like $500,000. In that case, you're going to have to pay the khums of its value at the end of the year. Not what you paid, but what it's worth at the end of the year. It may have gone down or it may have gone up. All right? After that 1 year, the reason why I said that, as I've written in the last line there, if the price goes up after that, if that, the house example, it went up to 700, let's say, by the end of that first year. If by the end of the second year it went up to $1 million, okay, you don't have to worry about the additional $300,000. You don't worry about it at all, because you're not keeping it in order to sell it and make money off of it. You're just keeping it to receive the rent, and that's how you're earning your money. Any questions on that? I'm not going to come back to this page again. Okay, after I go back to that page. If you have any questions, let's deal with them right now. Nothing? Okay.
One quick question.
Yes?
Until you decide to sell it 3 years later or something like that, and you make a lot of money, is any khums due on that?
No, if really because we can't play around with God, okay? If our intention is to keep it for sale, but in the meantime, it won't hurt to make money off the rent, okay? We can't trick God, all right? So if we're keeping it for making money off the property itself, we're going to have to treat it as the other. But if really, no, our business, I don't want to sell this ever. I keep buying new homes, and I want to have a number of them, and I just want to, you know, make money off the rent. And I want to keep adding to the homes that I'm buying. That's what I want to do. I don't want to sell this. I'm not a business person that keeps buying and selling, buying and selling. I don't like doing that, okay? I buy this property, I keep it, and I rent it out, and I'm constantly maintaining those homes or whatever. If that's really what I'm doing, I don't worry about the appreciation, but if it's, as I said, something that we are keeping for sale. Now, if we're not keeping it for sale, but it happens that 2-3 years down the line, we do sell it, and it has appreciated. What do we do with that? Okay. Well, according to both these marjas, that year, this is going to be considered an earning that is added on. Okay? It's an earning that is added on. So you have until the end of that year to put it into another business, make use of it in another way. If you don't do that, then you're going to have to pay khums on the whole amount. And if you put it in the business again, if it's a similar business, again, you're going to have to calculate the khums. So well, if you do sell it, yeah, you will have to in the end. Either way, you're going to have to worry about the khums. Okay? Even if you invested in a new business. Except for the amount that you've already paid khums on. Let's say it was worth $500,000, you've already paid khums on that. Now it's worth $700,000, you have to pay khums on $200,000, not the whole $700,000. Okay. What is kept for to gain the profit through its sale? If you want to buy and sell, all right. Whether it's just, I don't know, consumer goods, electronics, cars, property, gold, stocks, whatever it is. Okay. If you're in the business of trading, whatever it is. Okay, you keep buying and selling, buying and selling. And you're keeping it because you're hoping that the price of gold is going to go up, or these stocks are going to appreciate and I want to sell it at that point. All right. If that's the case, then, well, at the end of the first year, khums applies to the entire value that it has, whatever it is. Okay. If it's appreciated, depreciated, whatever it is, you're going to have to pay khums on that. In addition to that, since it's for sale, if you keep on holding on to it, all right, you want to keep gold so that you sell it later on, and you're keeping it for 5-10 years. Every year you're going to have to look at the value of it. If it's appreciated, you will have to that additional value is something that you will have to add to your calculations and pay khums on. Okay, that's the difference between where you have something that you're going to be keeping for sale, or something that is just like equipment, or like an office building, or a home that you're going to be renting. These are different in that way. Okay. With one condition though, let me clarify this. Whoever has got stocks that they are doing this with, or the gold or whatever, right? The condition for, because what we're saying is essentially this. If you have those stocks, at the end of this year and the next year, even if you don't sell it, you will still have to pay khums on the additional value. Stocks, gold, whatever, okay, that you're going to be selling. With the, again, let me clarify, I'm stressing on this point. Some people trade stocks, right? They're keeping it for that. Some people don't do that. Their investment is actually in a company because they want to be part of that company. They're making profit off of, you know, their investment in the company. They're not in the business of trading stocks. We're talking about somebody that's trading stocks. Okay, they're keeping those because they're waiting for the right moment to sell them. Okay, for someone like that, even if they haven't sold them, they will have to pay khums on the added value, on the appreciation. Okay, but only with the condition that in the end, at the end of that year, if you were to sell it, somebody would be able to buy it from you. Okay, sometimes business is down, people don't want to buy. Even if you put it up for sale, no one's going to buy it. Okay. If that's the situation, you don't have to worry about the khums. But if you were to put it up for sale, people would be there to buy it, then you will have to put that into your calculations and pay khums on it.
So first year, Malana, just to clarify, first year you pay khums on the full amount, and then in the following year you pay on the increment, right?
Yes.
Well, I have a question on that same topic. If you have 4 years, first year to second year you have an increase. Then you go from 80,000 to 100,000.
Yeah.
And you pay khums on the gain. On the
Yeah. Yeah.
The subsequent year, your stock goes down to 80,000.
Yeah. You don't pay khums. Yeah.
Now, what if in the fourth year you go from 80 to 100 again? You pay khums on that 20?
Yes, you will.
Is it not going to be considered as the mal al-muhammad which we have already paid the khums?
No, because at the end of each year, that's what you're going to be ending up with. So if at the end of the second year you ended up with $80,000, okay. No, that was the first year he was saying. First year is 100,000, okay. Second year went down to 80. Third year goes back to 100. Third year you have 20,000 that's been added compared to the first year. Now you reach the same value that you had at that point, right? But compared to what you started at the beginning of the year, you have 20,000 added value there, okay? And you will, those are earnings of that year. It goes annually, so every year you have to calculate how much you have. If it adds on, then you're going to have to pay khums on that additional amount, okay? But if it fluctuates during the year, it goes down, then it picks back up during the year, then. All right. No, that's what he was asking. No. No. Yeah. No refund from Alana's, okay. They say this Malana was drowning. Okay.
Yeah, you stop stock, you cannot treat the stock.
They said this Malana was drowning, and the guy was telling him, "Give me your hand," okay, and he wasn't raising his hand. This other Malana came and said, "No, you're not speaking the right way. So take my hand," and that's when, okay. There's a lot of jokes like that in Iran. That's not true, though. We can hear it from others, inshallah. Loans. Okay. Khums never applies to borrowed money. Okay. Borrowed money is not something that you pay khums on. or anything you buy with that. So mortgages that people were asking. Okay, if you buy a house with a mortgage, even if it's for business, as long as you haven't paid any of the principal back, all right, you don't worry about any khums. Okay, because it's borrowed money and you haven't paid it back yet. And the amount that you pay, I guess this is what I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, if in some of their deals for the first, I don't know how many months or years maybe, the only thing you're paying is interest. Okay, that's not something you'd be worried about. Okay, when you start paying the principal of the loan, that's when you're going to have to worry about it, and we're going to explain that. So as long as it's borrowed money or something you bought with borrowed money, you haven't paid it back, you don't worry about khums on that. When the loan is being paid off, okay, then you have to see what you have actually bought. Right now you have to think about what's going on. If you've bought a house for your own personal use, you want to live in it, then even when you start paying the principal, you don't worry about paying khums. Okay, so that's not something you're going to be worried about. If it's something that is for business purposes, right, we've said here that the percentage of that position, that property, whatever it is, okay, which is freed, I've called it that for want of a better word, after you started paying the principal back, is subject to khums, percentage. Why do I say that? I made up this example, maybe, I hope it helps understand. And here we go, there's something that's changed here. It's not what I had a number here, I think it was 4. It's turned into a $sign. Microsoft, that's their fault. Anyway, for example, an office building is bought using mortgage. Okay, the price of the building is $4 million. Okay, $4 million. The price when he initially bought is, let's say, $4 million. Okay. Then he pays $1 million of the principal. Okay. He will have freed 1/4 of that building. That's going to be his, right? Now, when he wants to calculate the khums, does he say, okay, I paid 1 million, I'm going to pay khums off of 1 million? The answer is no. You look at how much that 1/4 or a quarter of it that has been freed, how much is that now worth? Okay. If it's depreciated, then it's your lucky day because you're going to pay less. Okay. If it is appreciated, then it's your unlucky day because you're going to have to pay more. Right?
Is it on, even though it's 1/4 of the value, should the estimate would be on the value of the property?
Yeah, you estimate the value of the property, obviously, and then you say, okay, this is 1/4 of it, quarter of it, and then you pay the khums on that. Yeah. Yes?
You pay it in the first year, and this is money that you gain through other businesses.
Yes.
And instead of paying khums on that money, you pay a principal reduction.
Okay.
Similar to doing this. So now, you just have to pay khums on what was freed. You don't have to pay khums on the money.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. What you pay that 1 million, all right? You don't worry about that 1 million. Because if the quarter has actually depreciated in value, then that means you've lost some money there. You don't pay khums on the entire 1 million. If you've lost money, then that's considered some of your losses. You don't worry about that. Whatever is left. No. The loss, the amount that is lost. So let's say it went down. The 1 million that was worth 1 million now has gone down to $800,000. The $200,000, you don't worry about that. The $800,000, that's what you're going to have to pay khums on. Yes.
If we purchase a property that the intent was to have it for business purposes, but in the next year we decide, you know what, we're going to put this for our daughter's wedding, and this would be considered as whatever we sell it for in the future, savings or whatever we can, but
that wouldn't be considered a personal reason. I made it, what I meant by personal is something that you need. Okay, if it's not something you need currently in this year, it's something that in the future you're going to need, right? You have to calculate the khums. But this is going to be similar to if you dedicate that property for, I don't know, your daughter's wedding, okay? Then this is going to be similar to the first type of business. Actually, no, excuse me. It's going to be, you're going to be, if you're going to be keeping it for your daughter's wedding, but your intention is that you're keeping this so that at that point you sell it and you use the money for, then you're actually keeping this for business, but instead of keeping it for your own good, you're keeping it for your daughter's benefit. So no, it's going to be treated as business. That's not personal that the personal that we were talking about. These two at least, I don't think anybody would differ on with them on this matter.
What I've heard from Alana in Canada,
Mhm.
quoting Ayatollah Sistani, is that anything which is for daughter's wedding or kids' education, khums is not applicable.
No. That's not accurate. What is accurate to say is the following. Because one little change in the circumstance is going to really change the rule drastically. Okay. If you buy items that, like in some cultures, I think I've heard that the subcontinent culture also includes this, where the parents usually are supposed to buy certain goods for their daughter. I don't know if that's true or not. In Iran it is, okay? The father has to buy, in some parts of Iran, the father has to buy for the daughter, okay, fridge and, I don't know, oven and so on and so forth, okay. You call it dowry? So anyway, that's something that a father would have to pay, right? If you start buying that, you're like, okay, I can't afford it all at one time. I want to buy it gradually, right? If you want to buy it gradually, they've said, look, if it's common, if it's considered your need during that year to buy for maybe 5 years down the line, right? Then, because it's considered your need at that point, it is going to be exempt from khums. Okay. So, for example, if my daughter is going to be born 3 months from now, and tomorrow is my khums day, I don't buy something for her that 20 years down the line, maybe if she gets married at 20, I'm going to be giving it to her. Common norms are like, what the heck are you doing? Okay, this is too early. Maybe 5 years before the marriage, maybe. I'm not saying this is the norm. I'm just saying if that's the norm. Then when she's 15, you start doing that. Okay, then it's acceptable. Like, okay, this is where you should, and people are getting on to you. Why aren't you buying anything? Your daughter's 15, and when are you going to do this? And that's when you know that this is time that it's considered in the society you live in. This is considered a need that you need to buy it. That's something that will be exempt. But if it's cash, they've said that no, khums will apply to it. Okay, so if you keep that money in the form of cash, khums is still gonna apply to it. All right, so putting it in an account for the children's education. If you buy things, not money, I'm generalizing now, whether it's for education, whatever it is, you buy something that you're not going to be using right now, you're going to be using sometime in the future, but this year it's considered your need. Okay, it's common for you. People usually buy in advance. Okay, and that's why I'm buying it. That's when it's exempt, and that's when it's something that you set it aside. But if it's cash, all right, or it's not something that you're actually going to be giving to your daughter, like the property, okay, I'm not going to be giving it. I'm just saving this so the value of my money is not lost. For example, in some parts of the world, they keep it in property because that's the safest thing to keep it in, right? That's the reason why I'm keeping it. Otherwise, my intention is actually that's cash. Whenever I need it, I'm going to take it out and buy whatever I need. That's not one of the exceptions. Only merchandise that you would buy for her if it's considered your need during that year.
Like jewelry or
Jewelry could be another example. Again, if commonly that's something that people do, it's normal, people don't buy it all at once, they start buying a few years in advance, that will be something that is exempt.
In the subcontinent, Malana, it's a very common practice that the parents, as soon as the daughter turns one, whatever that age may be, they start saving that money or they start investing in a mortgage property or it could be land, and that would be transferred over time that they'll sell it and use that money to give it to the daughter, or that property can be given So that's a norm. Is that exempt?
No, because it's not. See, what I was trying to clarify is this: there's something that you will use in the future, and you're buying it in advance to use in the future, and it's common to do so. That will be exempt. Cash is not something you're going to be using as an object that you're going to be using. It's cash. Cash is never exempt. If you have it, you pay khums on it. The property, okay, if it's common in some culture for the dad to buy an actual house for her to live in, and it's common for them to do that, yeah, that will be exempt. But if it's common to buy that as a savings to then sell to buy other things, that's not going to be an exception. Okay. Culture, yeah, meaning the culture, the urf they call it in the fiqh books. If urf considers something to be a need, it's common to spend money in this way, then that will be considered an expense. And different parts of the world, when you go, they have different attitudes towards that. They have different understandings. And yeah, it does make a difference. There's many areas of fiqh that urf, the culture of the region, does make a difference. For example, in some parts of the world, okay, if you come and you extend your legs, it may be considered disrespect. Now, you're not supposed to be disrespecting, let's say, your father. You do that, then that's going to be problematic. But in some other cultures, you go, extending your legs is absolutely fine. It's not considered disrespect. Okay? So if you do that, then it's not considered problematic. Right? So, no, culture, there's a lot of different instances where culture does play a role in the rule.
This example that you had the slide before of the office building, can you apply the same thing on your personal home?
On your personal home, you don't need to. As I said, this was, see, I'll go back to this one. If it's personal expense, you don't even worry about the khums. Personal home that you want to live in. Okay? Personal home that is considered your need. Okay. Then, even after you pay it off, it's like buying, like if you buy a house, you pay out of your pocket, you buy a house. Do you pay khums on it? You don't. No. You don't pay khums on that. Interest is a loss, because interest, we don't believe it's not interest. You're not paying it as interest. Don't pay it as interest. Your intention should not be that it's interest. If you pay it as interest, then that's a sin. You shouldn't pay it as interest. You should just pay it as though, I don't have any other. They're considering it's interest. I'm not paying it as interest, though. Okay. No. Okay. Debt. What's the difference between loan and debt? What I mean by that is the following. Some people have this misunderstanding that if you have debt, all right, then you kind of take out your debt from your savings, and if anything is left over, then you pay khums on it. So let me think. I have $500,000 to pay to the mortgage, and I have $10,000 savings, and therefore I'm not going to pay any khums. Okay. Doesn't work like that. Right? It does not work like that. How does it work? If you have debt that you haven't paid, right? It's a debt that monthly, every month you pay a certain amount. Okay. So the installments that you haven't already paid. And you won't be paying before the khums day. Right? Their due dates are after that. It will not be deducted from your savings. You don't do that. Okay. It's not something you can calculate. What you can do is the amounts that are already paid, which is not really worth mentioning. I don't know why they've mentioned this at Risala. It's okay, yeah. If you spent money this year on paying off loans, do you say, okay, I paid off the loan, now I'm going to be paying khums on it again? Yeah, it goes back to the previous issue. If it's something that you took that loan to pay for a business item or whatever it is, property, then yeah, you would be paying on that. But the point is, you don't. This is what we're stressing on here. If you aren't going to be paying it, you just have that debt that you will have to pay in the future. That's not going to make it exempt from khums, and your savings, you take that out. It doesn't work like that, all right? So you just forget about the debts that you have that you're not going to be paying. Only the ones that you have paid, or if it's something that, as I said, according to Atlaq Khamani, it's going to be due in the next couple of days, and you need your money to pay that. If you don't, if you pay your khums beforehand, you're not going to be able to make that payment. That's what you will have as an exception. The other thing is, if you have money lended to others, okay, if you lend money, one of the good things about lending money to people is you don't pay khums on it. Okay, you don't pay khums on it until you get it back. And when you get it back, it's considered something of that second year when you get it back, or the third year that you get it back. So you have the remainder of that year to make use of the money you got back from your friend, brother, whatever. Okay. So that's also something to keep in mind. Any questions? Yes.
So we have a debt in student loans where we co-sign for our sisters, brothers,
Yeah.
kids. Those loans are debt on us.
Okay.
So and that's a payment that we have to make a payment.
Yeah.
So after making the payment, whatever principal is left, so we pay comes out of that principal left, right?
What? I mean, you're talking about buying something with a loan, all right, and then you're paying off the debt, right?
No, education loan that, or let's say I went to school.
Okay.
I've got a debt on me
Okay.
that I've got to pay back.
Mm-hmm. What's the?
Every month I have that payment.
Yeah. So whatever you pay for that, that's one of the expenses that you've made, right? So. Yeah, it's an expense, right? It's gone. It goes back. Remember we said if the money and everything is gone, then you don't worry about it unless it was extravagant, it was wasting, and so on and so forth. This is not that, so it's okay. Yes.
If you buy like any gift for your family, for your wife, or something on credit card, now you're completely approaching. You have this is a debt against you on the credit card. You have to pay it, and you decide to pay. Okay, I'll pay on my scheduled date. Will this money will be counted as compensable, or you have to pay your debt before the full day, or you can wait?
When is the due date of it? I mean, you may be able to pay it earlier, but when is the due date of the the debt? When do you have to pay it?
I mean, like due date, like you can pay now, or like you have still 20 days to pay. So
Okay.
instead of giving benefit to the bank to give them your money, you don't want to pay. You want to wait for your billing date to pay that money. So you
Okay.
have to pay like 10 days or 15 days
Yeah.
after you complete.
Yeah.
That's the money you want to
So basically, let me just clarify the case that you're talking about. I buy something with a credit card, okay? I haven't paid it off yet. And it's a gift or something you're saying?
Yeah, like your wife.
Well, see, gifts, if you're giving away gifts, you're actually giving it away, okay?
But you have not paid that money. Like you have money in your account, but you have to, like since you have to spend your credit card, it's a debt against you as well. So you have to pay that money.
I know you're going to have to pay that money, but you haven't currently paid it.
Right.
So as long as you haven't paid it, you don't put it aside, if that's what you're trying to get to. You don't put aside cash and say, oh, this I will use 20 days down the line to pay off the debt. You can't do that. If you have cash sitting in your account, you're going to have to pay khums on it.
So if you pay before your khums debt, then that's okay? Because you have to pay like in the...
If it's common to pay, it before then, if it's common to pay it 20 days early, then you can pay it 20 days early and you will not have to pay khums on that. But if it's not common to do that, and it seems like people are escaping khums, then you will have to pay the khums on that.
It's about the benefit. Like you use the credit card in place of credit card, you could have used the cash as well.
Yeah.
Because you have to pay it. The only thing like you get some perks when you're using credit card.
So there is benefit. That's why you use the credit card. So you want to get best of both worlds. It doesn't work like that. Okay. If you want to use the credit card for some points or benefits or something, that's fine. But if it's common to pay it, if it's not common to pay it 20 days in advance, you will have to pay khums on what you will later on pay towards that debt. Okay? Okay. Next point is some people have asked this question. If you have, if you pay khums on a certain amount and you have that sitting in your savings account, let's say you end up with $10,000, you pay the khums on that, that's $8,000. $8,000 is sitting in your account, all right? And during the year you make use of that money. Okay, you spend it on certain things, but then you gain it back, and at the end of the second year, you have, let's say, $8,000 again, but you spent some of it and you replace it with new earnings. Do you say, oh, I ended last year with $8,000, this year up to $8,000, I don't pay any khums? Or do you say, okay, whatever you spent during the year and you replace it, the new earnings, you will have to calculate the khums? There's a difference of opinion on this matter between Ayatollah Sistani and Ayatollah Khamenei. According to Ayatollah Sistani, there's no question, easily you put that 8,000 aside and you don't worry about the khums on that. Clear, no question. But according to Ayatollah Khamenei, he says, look, if you have earnings, you can use that money and pay for something. You don't choose to do that. You choose to pay it from your savings. You can't replace that with your new earnings. Okay? So you have your savings account and you have your checking account, let's say, that your money is flowing in, your paychecks are coming in. Instead of using money from your paycheck, from your paychecks, from your checking account, you use it from your savings account. It says you can't put it back over there, right? But if you had an expense during the year and you didn't have enough money in your checking account, and that's why you use your savings account, that's when you can put it back over there, all right? And you are going to be okay. So you just have to be careful. You don't. Whoever follows him, you have to be careful. You don't. Regardless, next year you take out up to 8,000. Khums doesn't apply to it. Okay, it's exempt. Three. Yes.
Have the money to pay my whole debt, and I'm basically paying interest for whatever the intention you want to have. Now, if I have the ability to pay that loan off and save myself from paying the interest, can I do it before the phone starts?
If it's something that would be considered, like when people hear about it, like what the heck did you do, and so on and so forth, then you will have to pay khums on that. If it's something that people hear like, oh, okay, you took that option. You had two options.
Yeah, I mean, I can pay over the same thing next 2 years with the interest. I can pay it right now and not pay anymore.
As I said, it has to do with common perception, and what we mean by common perception isn't this that do, like, out of 1,000 people do at least 200 of them do that. That's not the point. The point is, if people hear that, it may be 2 people that do it. But it's something that's understandable, like, okay, you took that. But, I mean, the amount that you're making this payment is normal, right? But if I were to do it, let's say, with the amount that I'm making, that's doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense to the common perception of the understanding. Then that I would have to calculate the khums, right? Usually they would have, the thing is, usually in debts, qarad would have a due date, a strict due date. And if you paid before that, definitely you're not going to be able to take out deduct that and not pay khums on it, right? But because these are a little different, I mean, at any point you can pay it. It's not like that due date is like a serious due date in that sense. I feel like that's something that can be played around with a little bit. Otherwise, if it's the traditional debts that people have, definitely before the due date, if you make that payment, you will have to pay khums on it anyway. If your understanding of the norms is that, you can do that. I'm not. It's not my responsibility to make that judgment for you. Everybody's got to see what they understand of the norm. Okay. Yes.
Let's say you have, in the light of the previous slide, like for Pakistan, you have like 8,000 saved, does it include all of your savings, including your bonds, stock, and whatever? If it's cumulatively 8,000, or like
Yeah.
it has to be cash?
No, collectively, all of it, yeah. Up to 8,000, if it's like invested, whatever your belongings are, you add it all up and see how much you have, and you take out 8,000, the rest of it you're going to have to pay khums on.
If I use, I have $10,000.
Okay.
I paid my home, it remains $8,000.
Yeah.
And then next year, I use not 8,000, I use like 3,000 out of this 8,000. Come and go, I spend and I put it back.
Yeah.
Do I have to, at the end of the year, I paid home for the 3,000?
Yes. If you had money that you could have used from that year's earnings, but you didn't use that, you just used this, then apparently he says that you have to do that, yeah.
3,000.
The 3,000, yeah, not the 5,000, just the 3,000, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like time was 12:30, but again, if
Yeah, let me finish this. This point is actually something that a lot of people should have heard. How do we pay khums? Okay. First thing is we need to pay it, make the payment to someone that we are sure has permission to collect that khums on behalf of the marja or a marja. Okay. There's a lot of points that I need to explain with regards to that. Number one, none of the maraja say that you need to give the khums to the marja that you follow. Okay. None of them have that ruling. Alright. They say you need to give it to a mujtahid. Many of them have that. A mujtahid may not even be a marja. Okay. A mujtahid is a mujtahid, but maybe nobody follows them. Maybe they're not well known, but they are a mujtahid. According to many, including Ayatollah Khamenei, you can give it to a mujtahid, and that's absolutely fine. Okay. Some, like Ayatollah Sistani, say you need to give it to the a'lam. Now, if based on your research, there are 2 people that are a'lam, there are 3 people that are a'lam, okay? In that case, you can give them to either 2 or either 3, whatever the number of people that you have there. That's one point. The other thing is being sure that the person or the organization you're giving to, you have to be sure that they do have that permission. If you're not sure, you can't give it. All right? But that surety and that certainty has nothing to do with getting paper receipts. I've heard people going around and saying that you need to have a written receipt from Ayatollah Sistani's office in particular. That's not the case. It's a mistranslation. I've seen the original fatwa. It doesn't make any sense in fiqh whatsoever. There's a mistranslation of that in English, and they're telling people you need to have written receipts. You don't need no written receipts. If you trust, for example, Maulana Abadi that has permission from Ayatollah Sistani, you can give it to him. You don't need no written receipt. Okay. If you have somebody else that you know that does have, you're confident, you're sure they have permission to collect khums, you can give it to them even if they don't provide you with a written receipt. For Sahm Sadat, you need permission as well to give. You can't just assume that, oh, since this is Sahm Sadat, I can give it to whoever. No, you have to seek permission for that as well. The last one, which is important for a lot of people, is this. And with the 401k is an example of this. If that whole amount of money, that large sum of money, khums applies to it, okay, now do I have to pay the whole amount all at once? It depends. For some people, not a problem. I can make that whole payment. It's not an issue at all. Sometimes it's difficult. It's problematic. For example, you're paying off a debt on the business building that we were saying. $1 million went to that. Yes, I now own that quarter of the building, right? But if I want to make the payment towards khums of that, which is, let's say in some examples, $200,000, right now I don't have the money. I would have to sell other things in order to get that, and it's going to hurt my business. All right? You don't have to worry about that. Some people think that, oh, since that's the case, then I just don't pay khums. No. You go to a representative of one of the maraja that you consider a'lam, or your own marjas, to make it simple. Your own marja's representative, one who has permission to do this, because not everybody who has permission to collect khums has permission to do what I'm about to explain. Okay. You can go to them, explain the situation, this is what it is, this is how much I owe, but right now I can't make that payment. they'll cut up a deal where you're going to be paying in installments, or they'll give you time. You say, I'm going to pay it in six months down the line, I'll make the full payment. Okay, you can do that. You need it to be cut up into small installments every month. You do that, they'll do that. Whatever works for you. Okay, so you don't have to think that, oh my God, all this money, what am I going to do with it? You don't have to pay all of it right there. You just have to work it out with the office of the marja, such that it doesn't hurt you. At the same time, you work out a deal so you are paying your khums. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, and it's important to do this. I just clarified on that last slide. If you don't do that, if we don't clear it up with the office of the marja, remember the first verse that we put up for you. Then that means whatever we use, 20% of it doesn't belong to us, and that's very troublesome. We're making use of the money of the imam, and we're not allowed to do that. Okay, and that's at the least of the benefit of going and settling the deal with the representative of the marja. Yes?
If you were supposed to pay khums in the past,
Yeah.
but you don't have any record of what you were supposed to pay, you don't have any, your accounts were closed, and you don't remember about the things you had that you were supposed to pay khums on because of ignorance, because of lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
How do you make up for those things?
You have to come up with an estimate, okay, whatever that estimate may be. Just think whatever you can remember, all right? You take those notes of yours to the office of the marja. This is the situation. You do something called musalaha, okay? They'll say, okay, let's play around with that figure a little bit, a little less, a little more. Whatever they agree with, they're not going to boost it up, if any. I haven't been in that process, but I don't think they're going to be boosting it up. Whatever your estimate is, maybe a little more, a little less, whatever, they're going to be calculating that as khums. If you can pay it all at once, then you can go ahead and do that. If you can't pay it all at once, then you're going to have to go ahead and you know, in installments maybe go ahead and pay that. All right. But again, just remember when you're doing those or whoever is doing that calculation, don't forget that, you know, if you have a certain amount from a previous year, then, you know, that kind of carries over to the next year and so on and so forth. Okay.
You have to get permission from
Yes.
the marja office. Is it like applicable for all the marja, or is it
At least at Lasisani at Khamani, apparently they need.
you cannot just on your own give it
Yeah.
sponsor maybe Sadat, you can give it.
Yeah, you have to seek permission for that. Yeah. Okay.
Do you make any major expense, let's say, like your khums is approaching, you have some money, like legitimate expense, buying.
If it's something that common perception considers that normal for you to do, then yeah, that's absolutely
Like
fine.
you're buying, let's say you're buying furniture, you need it, and you're saving money for that one before, like you get enough money before. Like
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. As long as you're not trying to run away from khums, it is common. This is an expense that I had. It so happened that everything came together 2 days before my khums date, and I made that payment. Doesn't matter. You don't worry about the khums of that. Jazakumullah for sitting here, the patience, sit here and listen to the whole thing. Allahumma salli.